Hello, listener, and welcome to Chaos Dwarf Radio, the Brazen broadcast, riding the airwaves in our Fauchard rotor heli hats. I'm Reaver, and today we're going to be turning our tusks upside down and running things a little different. Oxy, MichaelX, and I will be piloting our series of informal hobby hangouts. So we hope you all enjoy, and feel free to send us any feedback on the forum. Let's get into it.
I mean, the podcast videos are more just, I don't know, really. They're good for the ones when we're talking about specific miniatures, definitely.
Yeah.
But apart from that, it's just something extra to have on the screen, really, isn't it?
They're useful, but they're not the point.
Yeah. It does interest me, though, how obviously we started it as like a podcast endeavour, and the YouTube was like an optional extra. And now, if you look at our analytics, everyone's watching us on YouTube, and no buggers listening. Well, I say no bugger. Hardly anyone's listening to the podcast. People are watching the YouTube an awful lot more than the podcast, which is really interesting.
I mean, it's probably got to do with the fact that we do cover a lot of picture-heavy topics. You know, miniature reviews.
So true, man. It's really hard to talk about those sorts of things without having some kind of visual reference. It just assumes the audience know exactly the model and have a perfect image in their mind's eye of what you're talking about, which doesn't really work, does it?
No.
That being said, I carry on uploading them as podcasts as well, because I'm sure people are listening to them as podcasts. Are you thinking about doing this one as a podcast as well, Reaver? Or are you thinking of having this one just a video?
I was thinking just a video.
Yeah.
I don't know. We could do both, but it's kind of, I don't know. I don't think it would add a whole lot. I mean, it is just good discussion, but
we could always decide after. I mean,
yeah.
If you're listening to this on podcast, we said yes.
I was thinking about having this little cup of water or spit next to out of the camera picture, so I don't really start licking on stuff all the time. But it was like everybody does it, so if you take offense, screw you.
Oh yeah, man! Like Brush Lickers Anonymous over here. Full disclosure, I'm going to be licking this brush for the next couple of hours. So if that's what you're into, you found the right channel. I could probably rate all of Citadel colours based on taste by now.
Yep. Some of them are really horrible.
Yeah, some of the contrast ones really bad.
Oh, damn it.
Yeah.
I think that's because of the thinners and stuff they put in it, or
no, mate. I don't know. Just some of the contrast ones. I think it's snakebite leather contrast in particular. Turns my stomach.
Is it still called that?
Yeah, it's like contrast snakebite leather. So they've kind of resurrected an old paint's name in a new paint.
Actually,
pitch and stuff like that. Probably. Though it does look like snakebite leather in the end.
Yeah, it does. It has a very similar effect. Like if you were to use old snakebite leather, give it a Agrax wash and a little bit of a highlight, it kind of looks like that.
Yeah.
So yeah, I've just totally embraced the old contrast paints now. Totally embraced them. It's like 90% of what I do is them now.
Yeah, for good reason.
Yeah, it really has just made my life so much easier as a painter. Especially where, I don't know, when it was all COVID-y lockdowns around here and I wasn't getting any games in, I did some of the best paint work of my life. I painted stuff that I think is, well, I personally think was of quite a good standard. But since gaming has been allowed in the country again and we're going around mates' houses and stuff, I'm just like, I need to get armies ready for the table. And I just can't be farting around with that stuff anymore. So I've gone really back into like speed painting.
Yeah.
Yeah, I tried making a few of my own contrast paints. I didn't get too far with it. I still think there's something there. I mean, it worked well. I only really experimented with gray.
Interesting. how do you do it, mate? Like, what do you use as a medium?
So I mean, I make all my own washes, and really all that I use for those is, um, it's airbrush full improver, a matte medium, and acrylic inks. I can get some of that out. Actually, I might here show it, but I use pretty much those three things and just water,
I mean,
and
flow improver
works pretty well.
it's great stuff for washes and stuff.
I never used it.
Yeah, so I
I've
use
used
these.
some of the Citadel mediums, which I suppose is a overpriced version of that. Is it?
Yeah, I would think so. But yeah, pretty much I have Vallejo flow improver, which gives it the surfactant effect, so it doesn't have the surface tension of
Okay.
of regular acrylic paint, so that helps it get into the crevices. I've really been meaning to write this up for the zine.
Yeah, I think that'll
And
make an
then
interesting thing, man.
the let's see, Winsor & Newton matte medium, got 500 milliliters for, I don't know, $10.
Oh, is that
And,
matte medium? You like it?
I mean, I pretty much exclusively use it for making my washes, and it works great. Although started this conversation, I do use some of it for trying out contrast paints, which is really just like the wash recipe, but playing with ratios a lot more.
Okay.
Washes I find to be super easy to make if you just generally know what a wash consistency feels like when you drag it up the side of a pot. And I've not really had any issues with getting kind of the right wash properties, but contrast is a little bit trickier, I think.
Yeah, I feel like the old contrast thing. I kind of accidentally created contrast a long time before contrast came out. When I had a couple of Citadel washes, a yellow one and a green one that I was using to do orc skin, and it was taking me like, I don't know, 2 or 3 coats to get it ready to do its thing. And then Citadel paint pots do what Citadel paint pots do, and they just decided to obviously crack open in the shed of their own accord and start drying themselves out. Um, and then when I came to use them, uh, they worked really, really well. They became like these magic sort of one coat wash sort of things that did orc skin perfectly. Um, and then a year or so later, the Citadel contrast paints came out, and when I started using them, I was like, "Man, these are my half dried out washes from the shed. These are perfect. You can buy them now."
Yeah, I mean
I
that's really what
remember.
that's really all it. I mean, when I'm doing it with when I tried to make some grays and stuff, instead of basing it off of an acrylic ink, very liquidy, and it's based off of a paint with a thick, regular kind of thick consistency. So like that already, you pretty much use the same recipe, but your starting paint is different, and it works all right.
Nice.
I have a couple of models that I actually did with them that I might work on in a bit because they need some more touch up or detail work. But yeah, I think it would be a struggle for me to tune good recipes for like yellows and stuff. But for like a nice like contrast gray or browns or something like that, I feel like I could do it pretty easily.
Nice. The contrast and the washes for yellows has been just like the most revolutionary thing for me. Like I remember
Absolutely.
as a kid, like yellow armies were just not obtainable. I'd see a yellow paint scheme and I'd be like, "That's lovely." I can never do that because the old paints, it would just take so many layers to get it to even start looking like it might be slightly yellow. And you have to be really careful about what you undercoated it with first and all that kind of stuff. Whereas now, like even yellow washes and yellow contrasts and similar things like that, yellow is such an achievable color now. And actually, I find it actually to be one of the easiest colors to use and create now.
Great.
Yeah, and those yellow washes have got such a strong pigment. They look almost like browns or yellows, don't they? It's like it makes you think of like what's that called? Iodine? Do you remember you see in hospitals now? It's like a browny thing, and you spread it out, and it's like completely yellow.
Did you just say yellow washes look like yellow?
Did I? Good. Next.
I think it did.
What I meant to say was they look almost like browns and oranges to begin with.
Yeah, they do.
And then
I
when it
mean,
spreads out, it kind of goes, you see how strong that pigment is, that it goes to yellow. But yeah,
absolutely.
do you know, if I said yellow washes look like yellow, I stand by that statement. That is also a fact.
I mean, why shouldn't you?
Yeah.
But yeah, I do like there's like you have great contrast and you have okay contrast. In my opinion, there's no I haven't had any bad contrast so far. Like
Um,
yellow is great. I love the black. I love the basilicanum gray, whatever.
mhm.
The red, so much red.
The
And then there's
one
like
that I've gone, sorry, mate.
no, go on.
I was just going to say the one I've had that hasn't impressed me has been the Macragge or Ultramarines blue, whatever one's designed for blue Ultramarines.
Oh, that's
It
fine.
just
You don't
leaves.
you don't need that.
No, I don't need that. But I was using it for my guard. I was going to use it for my guard, and it just like kind of like I don't know how to describe it, really. Got stuff here, Ultramarines blue. It just kind of dries a bit, kind of cloudy almost, a bit chalky. It just doesn't. I don't know what it is. There's something about it. It just doesn't land in the same way. The reds are fucking amazing. I'm using the Blood Angels one here for these guys because I want them to be really bright because the streaking grime I'll do in the end will drag that right back and make it quite dull. So I've got to start quite bright. But
Nice.
if you're going for a dark red, that Flesh Tearers red is an amazing paint.
I love it.
It's like painting with jam. It's thick, but it really does the job.
I mean, these days, my armies are like 80% Basilicanum gray and metal and Flesh Tearers red. That's like
Really
well, and
awesome.
some green, but mostly those.
Nice.
Yeah, my paint range is about 80% watercolors at this point, I think.
Really.
And I still have some good opaque Vallejo game color that I start a lot of miniatures off with, but I think at this point I'm hardly lacking any of the watercolors colors. At least I don't have like, they have like 1 through 5 plus, a couple specialties for each of in the base range. I don't have every number, but I have a selection of each.
Yeah. I was really
Yeah.
impressed by their one coat paints. I thought they were very, very good.
I don't have those yet. Definitely
Yeah,
want to
no, I've
try
been
some of
really
those.
impressed with them. The only colour in the one paints range that didn't wow me as much was the black. It's got a bit of a glossy sort of finish. And there is something about it that I find where I'm doing the whole speed painty streaking grime thing now. It must be something to do with its medium or whatever. That when I do the stripping stage using the what do you call it? The odorless thinner stuff to it's supposed to only lift the streaking grime and not lift acrylic paint, but it always lifts watercolors one coat black, but
Interesting.
no other paint from their range for some reason. So yeah, it is a funny one. It must be something about the mix that they've got there that it just doesn't like. But generally, yeah, I've loved using those one coat paints. They've been really good.
Yeah, I need to
Also,
pick up some of those and some of their hacks at contrast as well.
They're what? Oh, they're yeah, right.
The
yeah, what do they
antithesis.
call
There
it?
we go. Antithesis.
Antithesis. Yeah. Handles a bit different to
Yeah,
contrast in my experience.
what I meant to say. They're not really contrast, but they're more like I think they're closer to contrast. They're a bit translucent, or transparent even maybe. These
Yeah.
are completely opaque, in the sense
Interesting.
that the pigments are. So where contrast seems to be based off inks, um, I suppose these are just based off paints. So they do cover, like for contrast, if you cover a layer of contrast with another layer of contrast, you get like this mixture of both colors. which doesn't happen with antithesis, whatever.
Antithesis, and
That
I think we're saying it right.
That's interesting because like I find the base war colors range to be generally translucent as a whole. So it's interesting. I don't know. Maybe it was just like trying to do a different recipe or something. Because I work with the war colors almost like you would contrast. I feel like, not that I have a lot of experience with contrast, but um, I do feel like the way I tend to work with a war colors paint is by just giving it that like, quick pass, keeping the colors beneath it showing through. So that's interesting. I would have thought that the antithesis paints would have leaned into that more.
Ditto. So
You've seen army painters doing their own version now, aren't they? That's a new thing.
they are
Army painters. They're calling them speed paints, and they're army painters' answer to contrast. Yeah, I've mixed experience of army painter products, to be honest. I've
same.
bought some of their paints that have just been. I hate to say it. I hate to slag off a company that's obviously doing great work for the hobby and putting products out there, and I'm not slagging them off, but I've definitely had some paints from them before that have just been as weak as piss. Just trying to get an actual coat out of it it's like I've bought it because it's been, I don't know, half the price of a Citadel paint, but it's taken 2 or 3 times the coats to get the actual colour on, so it's not really been worth it. But to be fair, I haven't bought from them in a long time as well. Their products may have improved since.
Well, when I got back into the hobby, I should say, I don't know, a few years ago, I couldn't find my old paint sets, probably because I threw them out because they were dried out, because Games Workshop. But I was quite shocked because the starter sets that Games Workshop had were like €200 or something like that, really
Yeah.
expensive. And then back then, the army painter, they had like this all colors in their range. I think it was like 70 paint pots or something, 70 colors, which was €70. So it was €1 per bottle.
Wow.
And I got that. And what I found is some of their paint is really good, and others is like water. I mean, it should be paint, but it's like really thin. And then when you get a second bottle, it's really thick, like the same paint.
Okay, so like a lack of consistency
Yeah,
across the product.
yeah, exactly. I mean, they were rebranded by the time I got a new bottle, but still, I think the first might have just been a bad batch because they were really, really watery.
Yeah, but I've had that as well before, so it does seem to happen occasionally. I don't know if it's like a product's quality control issue or something. I don't know.
But to be fair, I've also had that with Vallejo. Not a
Have
lot.
you?
Yeah.
Yeah. Vallejo's not a brand I've really used, to be honest.
Yeah. I I think like 80% of my paint is the Army Painter, and then equal amounts of Games Workshop and Vallejo in between.
I really am about 90% Citadel colour, to be honest. Got mostly Games Workshop paints. A couple of reasons for that. I've got a friend who's got me some Citadel paints very cheaply in the past, so I've managed to pick up quite a lot for very little. And secondly is a very good friend of mine runs my local Games Workshop, and I've just bloody love an excuse to pop in and chat to him while my wife's shopping. So if I pick up a couple of paints while I'm there, it's less expensive than picking up a couple of boxes of miniatures, and it is just the perfect excuse to not have to shop and to see my buddy instead.
I don't think your wife agrees with that, but
Yeah, thankfully my wife doesn't watch Warhammer based YouTube channels because she's got what's it called? A life. She's got one of those.
oh,
Huh.
weirdo.
She's not one of those creeps on the internet watching people paint. Hello, audience. You alright?
Eddie, you listening?
Eddie, yes. Yeah, you have tuned into the world's strangest ASMR channel.
So what we really need in one of these is just Chits reading Among the Wicked Dawi throughout the entirety of the hangout. That way we don't have to talk.
Yeah. I hope they get more of that audiobooks, because that first chapter they did the audiobook of was so good.
I mean, I'd just be happy with just reading anything, really. I'd even be happy with him ranting about his hobgoblins.
Yeah, the ongoing Hobgrot stock exchange thing he's got going on. He certainly is interested in miniature markets. It's very I find it enlightening. I think it's very interesting. It's not a way I'd ever viewed the hobby before, so I get to view it through his eyes, and he is often very insightful in the way that he looks at those sorts of things.
Definitely.
Yeah. But that whole Dominion thing is just bloody interesting, isn't it? Like, that really hasn't sold, has it? That box set.
Nope.
Scalpers don't seem to be able to get rid of their stock. You know, people that had bought them up to sell them in parts, they just don't seem to be able to get rid of them. And I don't know. I still don't really know what it is. Is it the Age of Sigmar isn't as popular as what they think it is? Is it that they've picked the wrong factions for the box? Is it that they shat the bed by giving the factions the wrong rules? I know that was definitely a thing with the hobgoblins, wasn't it? That they didn't interact with the orcs in terms of keywords and stuff. So to people that play the game, they weren't much use to them. So I really don't know. It's just after you see 40k gets a new edition and they can't keep the box on the shelf, and then AOS gets a new edition, and within a couple of months, Games Workshop is actually putting it on sale. I mean, Games Workshop doing a fucking sale. That is in and of itself a point of interest, isn't it?
That blew my mind. I never would have expected it.
Yeah,
Love to see it.
Yeah, yeah. And where I am, not the world's biggest Age of Sigmar fan, I am much more into old Warhammer and things that look and act like old Warhammer. There is a tiny, tiny, tiny bit of Schadenfreude with it all.
I mean, it's. I don't know if it's particularly good news for us though. I've had a discussion with Chits a while back. You know, the fact that you don't know what kind of conclusions Games Workshop will make out of this.
I know, yeah.
So, you know, for the same, there's a chance they'll just think, okay, there's no market for Games Workshop hobgoblins, so fuck it, we'll never make any again. Which would suck because I'd love to have some official Games Workshop hobgoblins, even if they aren't, what many of our forum members view as hobgoblins. I'd still like to have seen something new. But
It's a
then
hard
again,
one, isn't it?
as Chit said, there's the chance that Games Workshop would somehow tie the hobgoblins together with the Chaos Dwarfs if they ever, if they bring out Oathbreakers. That was a slim chance anyway, so who knows?
I mean, I think we can hope that they haven't, or that like their release schedule is planned out enough in advance that at least some of what we'd be looking to see wouldn't be, on the chopping block at this point because of that.
Okay.
They're planned far out. One would think.
They are, I think, about 2 years normally a company like that, isn't it? Or at least a year and a half of product kind of is rolling out already. So, yeah, hopefully. I mean, because it would be the wrong conclusion, I would argue, to draw that people didn't buy Dominion because they didn't like hobgoblins. It would be that people didn't buy Dominion because either they're not playing the game as much as what you think, and the people who do want it bought it, and the people that didn't want it didn't buy it, and that you didn't really package the hobgoblins as you should. They should have just law splained them as, I don't know, Crawl Boys hobgoblins for today. They work for the Crawl Boys now, and with this battalion, they gain their keyword or something. I don't play the game, but one of my friends who plays the game was talking to me about how the orcs all got access to poisoned weapons, and the hobgoblins didn't get access to the poisoned weapons. And that as well was just a bit like a what? The models literally have venom dripping off of their blades on the sculpts.
Or do they?
Maybe it's gore or something. Wasn't it painted green in the or was it painted red? Maybe it's gore. But I don't know. If you were going to give anything in that box set a poison dagger, it would be the hobgoblin sneaky git, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
Quite liked the new orcs as well. I liked the faces on the shields. I liked their kind of like hunched little Tolkien looking thing they had going on. I thought they were very cool. But I do think that an issue as well with those orcs is that it was a hard sell for existing orc players because they didn't fit with any of their other stuff. They'd be great if you were starting a whole new orc army that looks like that. But if you're running around with the previous orcs that kind of look like, I don't know, big green orangutans, really, didn't they? And then you have those kind of skulking, sneaky blokes hanging around with them. They don't really all look like the same army. So I think that might be a factor as well. Who knows?
I guess time will tell.
Yeah, it will really. As in, there's just, I mean, I feel like every podcast we talk about the same bloody thing, but there are just so many question marks over the direction, the new army, the new game, etc., etc.
I mean, it's still an exciting time for us.
Oh, massively, yeah. Yeah, definitely. And I think where you've done that big archive backup recently on the main forum, it's really interesting looking back and seeing old conversations like when the Hell Cannon was first previewed and people on the forum were like absolutely shitting themselves going, can't believe it, official Chaos Dwarf models, this is brilliant. And then later on when Legion of Asgore were coming out, people like doing the whole rumours, there's Chaos Dwarfs coming soon and all that. Like, it's really cool seeing that, and it's cool to think that we're possibly on the cusp of another sort of round of that.
What, getting excited for new models and then getting maybe something?
Maybe something. I mean, maybe something is good for us. Maybe something is better than nothing.
That's true. That's true.
Yeah.
The whole archive section really enriches the search functionality. I've noticed. Just, you know, I've only had done a couple of searches since that's all been completely ported over, but now I'm like, oh, now I'm just kind of cruising looking for something and just having like, oh, I don't know, like 5 out of the top 10 results or something I would not have, expected based on normal use of the forum. But now there's just such a wealth of other posts to look at.
The funny part is, while setting it up, I decided to within Discord you can give certain categories a search weight, so to say. And I put it lower than the rest. The idea being if you search something, you'd rather probably want something from the forum as it is and not from the archive. So I hoped they would be on top, but for some reason, either the mass of the old archive just is so huge that it outshadows the new forum, or I don't know what, you just get so many hits from the archive.
Yeah, it's
isn't
probably
bad.
Case of quantity, right?
Yeah.
It's got to be. So much stuff. I mean, how many years worth of stuff? 14 years or something?
Something like that.
Yeah,
I mean, I was looking at user stats, top post reads and top post of topics read and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And the system user, who I've been using a lot for this, he's like had I think about 200 something thousand posts read, which is probably everything because it checks the stuff. And then my account had like 19,000 topics read. I was like,
I noticed that on your account. Yeah, I can't remember why I was looking. I was doing something for badges or doing some kind of updating admin stuff, and your one came up like Like the amount that you'd read on there was just unreal, and the read time that it had taken you was like mathematically impossible.
Yeah, I was like, wow, I was really active on this forum, and then I was like, oh no, wait, that's not possible. So it's just because I was using the API in my username to read all the
Yeah,
stuff, you know? Yeah, funny.
Michael's just been out there boosting his stats.
that's what it is. Yeah, got to
Absolutely.
get that. Got to get that top spot, most read.
Oh, oh well. I have to say, it was a really fun project to do that.
Oh mate, so much value for our community as well. So good. You know, when I remember back when we first switched over to the new software and stuff, and you know, Admiral talking about it as a long term project of manually moving stuff over, and I just kind of said, "Oh yeah, cool, cool," cool. And didn't really. I don't think I ever really appreciated how Herculean a task like that would have been by hand, and actually, realistically, it never would have happened. When we now know what we know, it never would have happened. It would have been a valiant attempt, and maybe the very best, like the best army showcases and stuff like that, could definitely have been ported over. But to port over the actual forum would never have happened like that. That's something that you needed software to step in, and obviously someone like yourself who knows software to step in and do the heavy lifting, mate. I think you joined the admin team, and within about a week, I think you'd done more than I'd done in about 6 months.
Well, you know, a lot of the stuff I did was stuff that annoyed me, you know, stuff, or I shouldn't say annoy, but stuff that was on my radar for a long time.
Yeah.
So when I finally got the power, I was like, oh, fuck it. I'll just do it myself.
Yeah,
So
I think I was a little bit like that with the admin thing. I think when I first got, oh shit, dropping a model there. That model is older than I am. I should not be chucking it around. Um, yeah, when I first got the admin stuff as well, it was very much like, what do I want in this website? What do I wish we had? And then I kind of felt a bit more empowered to do it. I suppose I could have done a lot of it before anyway, but I just felt a bit more empowered to do it.
weird how that works, huh?
Yeah, stuff like the zine and stuff, you know, would probably. I started that when I first got granted the admin status. I don't think I'd have started that if I didn't. I don't really know why, but I just wouldn't have done. Yeah. It's a very
Doesn't work.
fun project. I mean, that was what caused this, man. It's funny, isn't it, how this started off like the podcast and stuff as like a supplemental to the zine, really, didn't it? And if anything, now the zine is more of a supplemental to the podcast.
Yeah, definitely.
It's funny, isn't it?
But that's also because the zine, you know, it requires a lot more effort.
Doesn't it just? That last issue, Michael, just, I don't know. I'd still be working on it now, mate. If it weren't for you stepping in and doing half the editing, and Raver, if it weren't for you going through and spell checking the 101 different ways I spell Warlords of Erewhon, it just wouldn't have been released.
I mean, it's, you know, I think most of us on the forum are of the same mind when I say we all enjoy this stuff. So in my case, I really enjoy participating in creating the content,
Yeah.
um, and doing something back for others, you know.
Yeah, that's
So
a big part of it, isn't it? The community's so cool, and the community, I felt like, gave me so much that it was nice to be able to do something for the community. Especially, like, I think during that first lockdown, I suppose every country's uh, experience would be slightly different because we'd have had lockdowns at slightly different times and for slightly different lengths and stuff. But for us, and for most countries, there was a big, big initial first lockdown. It was just like mental, where it was just like stuff you'd never even dreamed of happening, just being indoors all the fucking time. And I found in the first lockdown as well, my industry, education, just hadn't got its act together at all. So there was like literally nothing for me to do. Subsequent lockdowns, they found ways of getting me to teach online and all that kind of stuff, which was great for the kids and that. But it was great, he added, for the kids. Um, but that first lockdown, there was nothing for us to do, and I do feel like the website and the forum and all that was just like I don't know. I don't want to be too dramatic, but a bit of a lifeline, really. A bit of a little window to the world, a little community of people you could chat to and have a bit of escapism through and stuff. And I think that was really what got me massively back into it, because I was a CDO member, and then I'd kind of like, I don't know, drifted off the radar a little bit, and then with that first big lockdown, I kind of went back in massively.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I feel pretty much the same. Before, I want to say, I mean, I would interact with the contests and things like that, and really happy to participate in all of those. But I'd take stuff to my own blog, and I've been doing that since the old forum. But definitely, I don't know if it's just the additional time or just needing to, like, I don't know. Yeah, like you said, interact a little bit more. Definitely felt like was able to use the forum more as that kind of a tool, and then we added the Discord, and that really just kind of made that even more of a factor, more of an everyday thing, as opposed to like I finished painting a model, I'll throw it up on my blog, and then 2 days later check it and see if anybody liked that it had an eye patch. Like, I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah, I think a lot of people have that experience. I mean, Zod's literally got a blog called Lockdown Chaos Dwarfs, even though he hasn't been in lockdown for months. It's still called Lockdown Chaos Dwarfs, and I reckon it forever will be, because that is what that army was. That's how it was spawned,
Absolutely.
Hands down, I think I promote it every time on the fucking microphone. Hands down, one of my favourite blogs on the website. That
It is a real nice blog.
it is, and just like, I don't know, Zod's just, we talk about it a lot, don't we? Just a colour palette that is truly born of chaos, but just works.
Can you see this? It's a bit.
Yeah, I can see. Yeah. But the male one, nice one. The scale. Sorry, I meant not male. Very cool.
Switching over to sculpting, Michael.
Sorry.
Switching over to sculpting.
Yeah. No, I've been sculpting all the time.
Oh shit! I haven't been paying attention. Well, I suppose probably now's as good a time as any to kind of discuss one of the exciting things we've teased a tiny bit. And Michael is working on it right now, I believe, so we might as well have a chat about it. What we've been working toward is some material for the Patreon, which right now we're putting polls up, and there will be some either contest or podcast or zine related material up on the Patreon, but we're trying to get some real rewards available on that. And one of the endeavors, which I think has a really interesting workflow, will hopefully be born of as many members as we can get to participate. We're sort of starting off with some resin printed templates that Michael's whipped up and mailed across the world to me. And we're sculpting various different torsos, heads, arms, things like that. And with the idea being, these will get 3D scanned and then be digital files that we can distribute. And then, yeah, I think that's the beginning point. We're hoping for some engagement from Chits as well, and he's already started actually on some lore crafting for some of the specific dwarfs that we're coming up with. And yeah, Eddie will probably be helping us out with some concept art and things like that. But the idea being, once we have this template done, anybody could either have a little resin dolly mailed to them or print them themselves, and we could add to the interchangeable kit of I guess it'd end up being more like a Magnificent Seven style kit of models that will have all sorts of various parts and hopefully fit lots of people's themes.
I mean, you know what would be really cool in the end, if the two of us, maybe later on, Jack will maybe sculpt some stuff, we'll probably, sculpt stuff that fits with our army and style and stuff like that. I would really love seeing people who have completely different styles and completely different armies just adding to it, and then you can like create a really unique unit of misfits. And did we spoil the name already?
I don't think we have. You can take the honors.
Oh, nice. Well, project is nicknamed the Brazen Bastards, so it would be nice to having a unit of bastards in my army.
Yeah, definitely. It's going to be a very cool project. And as you guys say, it's going to give people the option to select different bodies, different arms, all those sorts of things, print them at their leisure, things sculpted by different members of the CDO community. And something I think is really cool about it is that if you really, really liked one particular style, you could make a whole unified unit out of them. Or if you wanted to go down the route of having the eclectic, like Magnificent Seven, the Brazen Bastards, you absolutely could do that as well. And we really want to get a bit more on the Patreon, don't we? In terms of giving people who are supporting the website and supporting our endeavours, giving them a little something for it. And I think this is not the only way of doing that, but it's certainly a good way of doing it, isn't it?
I think the best part of it is you get very characterful models. Something that would fit with, at least partially fit with pretty much everybody's army. But then it's not, it's ours, so we can do with it what we want.
Yeah,
which is a big plus these days.
definitely. And it's just the coolest thing about the advent of printing, and also the way that we can now digitize our green stuff creations, is that historically it was such an endeavor to get printed models or physical models out to people interested in them, that the costs involved would have made it almost prohibitive, because we probably wouldn't have been able to front up the money to get it started. And if we did front up the money to get it started, it would have been a very limited run, or a single not sprue, but a single cast, I suppose is what I'd be after, that you could realistically create. Whereas with this, it's data. It's almost limitless.
I mean, one of the biggest things I just thought of is when we're scanning the first set of models, it's not only limited to people who can do green stuff shit, but just about everybody who can do digital sculpting as well. So if Eddie gets these scans, he can just start whipping up models, bits, heads, arms digitally.
Yeah,
Scan.
we can absolutely combine the digital sculpts and the green stuff sculpts together in one now, which is it's very cool, very exciting. And I've been already sent a couple of previews by you boys about some of the torsos and some of the heads and arms and bits you guys have already shown me, and I've already thought, yep, I don't just want to have an eclectic unit, I actually want a unit of that guy, and I think that'd be quite cool as well.
Absolutely.
Yeah, in a minute here, I'll go grab some of mine that I've got over on a different bench here, and show them up on my camera, which hopefully will be able to capture it to a little bit enough to wet the palette.
Something that is I've been thinking about a lot lately is before the S Cannon contest.
Yeah.
I hadn't really sculpted anything. I did some wood beams for palanquin for a rat model, and then some never finished, very basic Nurglish demon, which was, as everything I do, way too big. But then the R scanning came, and I sculpted a whole lot on that. And this is my next step. So it's quite funny how quickly this went.
Mate, I can't believe how far you've come as a sculptor in the time that I've known you, Michael. Like, the stuff you're creating is just so cool, and I think it's quite inspiring thinking that you're your starting experience with sculpting miniatures was close to zero, and what you now create is, I do think there's just always been a culture of sculpting in Chaos Dwarfs Online anyway, and I think we know why that is. It's because if you wait for official releases and you're a Chaos Dwarf fan, it's an exercise in patience. I'm sure there's some kind of like Buddhist meditation associated with waiting for an official Chaos Dwarf release. So I do think that just over the years, our user base has become sculptors out of necessity more than anything. But once you're involved in this community, it just
happens.
And you feel empowered to try it out as well.
Yeah.
Like I think my first or second ever golden hat or artisans competition, I sculpted a whole model from scratch, and I'd literally never sculpted a model before. Like I just went for it because I don't know. There was enough tutorials and a website, and there was enough of a culture of it as well. I think there is just a DIY culture on that website where we do just sculpt, and even if we get brand new models out of the box we love, of course we're going to sculpt from new faces and new beards and new details because got to make them ours, isn't we?
Yeah, and I think this this kind of initiative started when we were considering the sculpting emissary exchange, and that was kind of that was the first idea, right? Of taking some crazy creation and sending it around the world and having everybody add something to it.
That was what it was going to be, wasn't it? Yeah.
That was the first thing, and we just started kind of going
it's
on.
It's a good idea.
I think we definitely need to do it. Ideally, when the painting emissary makes its way around, I think. But yeah, I mean, I'd love to start that one whenever. It seems like that'd be a lot of fun as well. Which I guess the end goal of that would be to send it in and get scanned, so anybody could print that as well.
Yeah,
I think this specific thing started out of finding a way to work together on one model, or at least one set of models. Then we start this route because of that, because it wouldn't be easy to send out one model.
I think you're right. Fairly sure.
The exchanges as well is another very cool Chaos Dwarf Online thing, isn't it? Yeah. Something you don't see in every forum that we do, and we do well here.
I think it's one of the. I think all those community things like competitions and stuff, it's really something that keeps the forum going, keeps it alive. I think if the competitions were gone and all these stuff we do next to just painting and showing our hobby, I think that's a really big what's the word? Driving force?
Yeah, definitely. I don't think it'd be an exaggeration to say that when I first joined the forum, like I came for the Chaos Dwarfs, but I stayed for the competitions.
Man, I was terrified for my first competition.
Yeah, same here. I think I came in with those converted Caradron Thunderers. That was my first entry. I was like, these are not traditional in any way whatsoever.
But
that was my
people don't care, do they?
Not really, no, not at all.
Yeah, people love it, and I just think that's something that's has been one of the things that's kept the website going over the years. Old Admiral, bloody always claiming, "Oh, don't ask me. I'm just a competition monkey. I'm not important." Mate, if it weren't for Admiral, he's the one who kept the torch alive, man. He was the one who, with his competitions and that, kept the website going.
Fact.
And it's a great thing as well. Like it is. We see the traffic on the website increases around competition time. It increases when competitions are announced, and it increases again when competition winners are being announced or when voting starts and stuff like that. We do see people. We have a lot of forum members that are very dedicated and are always involved. And we have some forum members who kind of come and go with competitions, and that's fine as well. Some people just join a forum as a competition place, really.
That's fine too.
Yeah, absolutely.
What are you painting, Reaver?
This is the Skull Kraken, one of multiple tentacle themed demon engines now in my force.
Skull Kraken, that is utterly inspired, mate.
Yep. It was it's been lingering for so long. So it's good to have some dedicated time just to sit down and force myself to do it. Yeah, it's born of the thing that I probably bring up every time we're on a podcast, but Forge World messed up my wheels in my order, and so I ended up with 2 Iron Demons, full complete kits, and just one one of them had Dreadquake wheels instead of actual wheels. So I basically made 2 Iron Demons out of it using the Servo Haulers kit, and then this is the leftovers, which is the main chassis of the Iron Demon, except the whole like boiler aspect of it has been removed, and it's actually just like one of those stupid gumball machine toys with the little casings that come with some piece of trash in it, and then some clock bits that I turned into really goofy looking Kraken face, and then it's Mauler Fiend tentacles, which I think lots of people have turned into Chaos Dwarf stuff, and a bunch of like Kill a Can saw blades and whatnot.
Nice. How many? 1, 9?
Definitely 9, I think. um, yeah, some of them might be Def Dread, but yeah, I just bought a whole bunch of bits. So pretty much for the price of those bits, got a whole, non-existent Skull Kraken. Since by the time I started, that was no longer available. So
Very cool. Very cool. And I think that's you're highlighting a little bit there. That's something that Chaos Dwarf players are able to just like lean so heavily into 40k bits. It's amazing. Like so many Chaos Space Marine releases and so many like Necromunda scenery releases and stuff. We're just like, yeah, that'll work in fantasy. I'll have that.
yeah, I mean, I abuse it for sure. I
It's
mean,
got to be
this
done.
my destroyer, which is probably the next big project that needs to be tackled after this thingy.
Yeah.
That's made from kind of the Space Marine Lord Discordant and the Venom Crawler, those couple of spidery looking things, which I'm turning into more crab looking things.
Nice.
I used a lot of those bits in the ass cannon too. So between that and the Servo Haulers kit, it's pretty much I don't know, like 50% of my bit salvage. I'm kind of running out of actual Legion of Asgore bits at this point that aren't dedicated to some project. I still don't have a real Dreadquake proxy, although I do have the bits from it, plus or minus everything that I dremeled to hell for the ass cannon. So that's going to be something completely different by nature of me not being able to put that kit together the way it's intended.
Yeah. Who puts kits together the way they're intended? That's not what a hobby's about. I distinctly remember that as a kid, looking at the back of the box and just being like, "So that's how I'm not going to do it." I don't know what I'm going to do, but it's not going to be that.
I mean, when I first started Warhammer, conversion was like one of the highest achievable goals in the hobby.
Yeah.
I mean, just childhood memories.
I think it's one of the highest forms of the hobby. I mean, it's so cool that you can create. I don't know your dudes, make it your army. It's half the joy of this hobby. You know, you play a video game or whatever, and you might have an option of lots of different skins and items and stuff to give your character or to give your forces or whatever. But it's not quite the same as getting out a hobby knife or a pair of pliers and actually like physically making your own character, making your own army, making your own models, and sitting back and knowing that like there may be armies that are similar to yours, but no army on planet Earth is exactly the same as yours. I mean, hell, even if you only just paint a model, that's still true, isn't it? There is not a single model in the world that is exactly the same as yours. That's your little dude. Fucking love that shit.
Yep. There's one thing that really that's weird about when you're sculpting, and that's all weird searches you're doing, like medieval god piece and
Yeah.
stuff like that.
Yeah.
And that's not even that weird.
Oh, I'll throw some out here, but I've definitely had to search like almost every piece of pig anatomy at some point. That'll become clear as to why. Just all manner of walrus imagery, all that's been searched.
Well, when I was doing my when I was doing my arse cannon contest,
That's a
anal
good one.
striations. That's not something I thought I'd ever be searching. You know, people think that that incognito mode was invented for pornography or buying your wife a gift. It wasn't. It was 100% invented for sculpting research.
I don't know if I've ever experienced as much pain though as when I have that like full slate of incognito tabs open that I'm doing a sculpting project, and then like some crash happens or my computer restarts, and I'm like, that's lost. I might as well just throw this in the trash now. Like I can't possibly overcome this hurdle anymore. Like I just lost all my research.
I thought what you were about to say is you've got all the tabs open and stuff, and then the girlfriend's like, "Can I just borrow the computer for a sec?" No, you can't.
I'm watching porn.
I promise. I'm watching really dodgy porn. I promise. It's really perverted. Yeah. Tell you what, these old 1980s Chaos Dwarf bazooka teams, just a fucking joy to paint. They are so nice.
I know you've answered this, but are you using that as filler, or do you have a like is in your Erewhon rule set? Is that being used, or just curious?
So, a couple of different answers to that, really. All of the above. Um,
Nice.
so in Warlords of Erewhon, obviously, there's no official Chaos Dwarf list, but they have the points calculator, and my mate Luke wrote basically every army book imaginable for that. So there is a Chaos Dwarf list in there. And what he's done with bazooka teams is he's treated it in the same way that Warhammer Armies Project did, where it's an upgrade to a unit of gunners. So you can get 2 gunners to get rid of their blunderbusses, and one gets a bazooka, and one doesn't get to fire because he's helping his mate load the bazooka. And if the bazooka team dies at any point, the bazooka can get passed to somebody else in the unit. So they're going to hang about to nearly the end, and it just adds a bit more range and threat to your bazooka teams. But I think I can also see them being used in games when I haven't paid for the bazooka upgrade, but they just look cool in the unit of handgunners. And I think, you know, a bloke loading a rocket launcher and a guy firing a rocket launcher, I think that's enough to equal one gun anyway. Do you know what I mean? Like that's fine in my book. And the people who I play against are very chill when it comes to proxying and counts as and all that kind of stuff. As long as it's painted, that's all we really care about. So yeah, they'll probably sometimes be unit fillers, and a lot of the time be their own little bazooka teams within units.
That's awesome. Yeah, I love all of the old weapon team units, and I definitely so I've recreated a mortar team, and that's just living as unit filler in my kind of emissary unit of Xander's Dwarfs.
Yeah,
But I think I have enough for that I can build like a swivel gun team and a couple of other things as well, and definitely. I mean, I'm very happy using them as unit filler. Works great, but yeah, I might try and do some rule set perusing or pillaging a few different ones. if/when I do play, people I play with wouldn't really care. So
Yeah. My swivel gun has been doing a stint as a Death Shrieker lately, and no one's really cared because it's the only rocket that I've got the arse cannon painted up, but he's massive, so he's more going to be a hell cannon or something like that. So the swivel gun's been a Death Shrieker lately.
Nice. Yeah, that's one of the few. I think that'll be the only Asgore artillery piece that I don't have a proxy for yet. I have coarsely some bits in a bag that haven't been at all visualized, but that's the only one that I'm kind of working toward, I guess. Everything else is pretty planned, I guess.
Yeah.
But
The cool thing about our army as well is that you can just go nuts with the artillery because there are so many different artillery pieces. If you use Asgore or if you use Warhammer Armies projects, it doesn't really matter. There are so many choices for artillery pieces. You can very easily create 4, 5, 6 different cannons and give them different rules. Have a reason for having those.
Yep.
yeah, I think I have one servo hauler chassis left that definitely is going to be used for something. It's the tiny little tractor, and I've used kind of the one with I've used the crane, which turned into the ass cannon. That's huge.
Yeah.
I used the kind of the medium-sized one as an Iron Demon, the one with the kind of cow catcher on the front. But I haven't used the kind of mini little tractor one, so that might be sized
tractor,
better.
though.
Sorry, what was that?
That's a cool tractor, though.
Oh, I
Very
know.
usable.
Oh, that whole servo hauler kit is just screams out for like industrial Chaos Dwarf weaponry. It's perfect.
I mean, I use it what it's intended for, kill team terrain, but it's really cool terrain. And I'd love that. If it wasn't, well, it's not that expensive, but, it's kind of expensive if you don't know what to do with it yet.
Yeah, it's not something you just buy on the off chance, is it? It's still cheaper than miniatures because it's still priced like terrain. Not that terrain is mega cheap from that company, but the terrain is probably you get more plastic for your money when you buy terrain than if you buy a box of models, don't you? So
Absolutely.
the fact it's priced more like terrain does make it a bit more affordable. Even though I think most people that buy it turn it into vehicles, from what I've seen anyway.
You're right. Really hitting the bingo book of things we bring up in every conversation here.
Yeah, we are showing what very, very dull individuals we truly are.
So should we talk about base sizes and base shapes next?
Yeah, what base sizes are going to use in the old world? Are they going to keep it to 20mm or are they going to go to 25? Shut up, Jack.
I'm still bummed out they're not going to octagonal shapes.
Yeah, I think I was going for a non-Euclidean shape, but I've given up talking about that.
Yeah. I mean, or heart shapes, being inclusive and all.
Heart
I mean,
shapes is cute, yeah.
You could have had some real unit variety though if you would have gone with some octagonal shapes and then square shapes mixed in. That would have think of the permutations you could have had with that.
Yeah.
Think of ranking.
I mean, you could.
Every model's on a puzzle piece.
Oof.
And numbering the bases is against the rules.
It's against the rules, yeah, that's it. First person to correctly deploy their army wins. That's the new game.
Yeah, done. So, Michael, what have you been doing? Well, I'm sculpting a cod piece.
Yeah.
Today, my coworker asked, "So, got any plans for the weekend?" And I almost said, "Yeah, I'm going to be sculpting cod pieces." And I refrained from telling him. I mean, I did tell him we were having the Hobby Hangout or podcast, I think, before. And then we got into a whole discussion about printing stuff, and yeah, my coworkers are nerds as well. Thank God.
Yeah, I think the printing stuff interests everyone, man. Like, well, I say everyone, obviously not everyone, but interests people who aren't into miniature wargaming still.
Yeah.
You know, like I got friends and family who couldn't give less of monkeys about miniature wargaming, but you start talking to them about this new technology. Well, it's not even that newer technology, but you know, it's still relatively new technology of 3D printing, and people's eyes do light up, and they are just generally interested in it. It is just a cool concept, isn't it? It's like a next generation, isn't it? When they used to have the old replicators,
Yeah.
tea, Earl Grey, hot. We ain't far off it.
No.
I mean, Jean-Luc Picard will be sitting there for 6 hours, and his tea won't be hot, but we're getting close.
I don't think his tea will be drinkable even.
No, that's it. Do not drink the resin.
Yeah, especially not if it's off. That would be bad.
Oh yes, make sure that resin is in date and been refrigerated.
No sand whatsoever. Actually, I do find in that same vein, discussing our plans for the Brazen Bastards actually it's an interesting workflow. Like it's something that I can actually talk to some of my more artist geeks with.
Yeah,
because it's definitely like people who've heard of 3D printing and kind of understand that well enough. But the whole and there's a lot of artists out there, and some that I know personally or talk with, that the concept of being able to do something physically but still like engage with the digital realm that is kind of becoming more and more important these days is I think it's a cool idea. It's something that I don't know. It's not a workflow. It's a hybrid of traditional and digital.
yeah, definitely. No, it is, and I think that's a cool thing about as well. About I think the reason why we engage people with these competitions and with these emissary exchanges and that as well is that the way we use the internet and stuff is so like what's the word, ephemeral. It just kind of goes out there. You kind of constantly just screaming or pissing into the wind and it's gone. But the competitions, I did something. Oh, I won a prize. Somebody's actually sent me that prize in the post, or I did an exchange and I've sent a bloke in Italy a hobgoblin, and then another bloke in Ireland has sent me a Chaos Dwarf. Like, it's physical. It's really. I think it's a big reason why we're seeing a wargaming renaissance now. Anyway, is I do think people are craving the physical and tactile things that perhaps we've kind of not had as much of in recent years, where we've moved over to doing so much digital media and stuff. I do think it's that physical nature of things is what grasps people really. I mean, we've spoken about it before, haven't we? Like I've said to you guys, if I spend 6 weeks playing a video game, I feel a bit dirty afterwards. I feel like, oh great, I really enjoyed that, but what have I got to show for it? Whereas, I'm spending 2 hours chatting to you guys today, and I'm going to have 4 little angry guys with beards to show for my my time.
How dirty I feel usually depends on the kind of game I'm playing.
Yeah. Right. That cheeky little smile just popped up afterwards, and I made a mental note not to continue that conversation.
I think that's probably the best part for me about having Bloodborne, the board game, because it's obviously a video game that I play quite a bit, but I feel like I can get motivated with a very little bit of playing the game, and then have a lot of board game miniatures to engage with, and
Yeah.
it keeps me from just kind of sitting in the video game, which I do still play, but um I've really enjoyed all of the board game campaigns. The miniatures have been fun to paint. They're very different. Most of them are fairly quick. So it's just been a different thing. And I don't do a whole lot of converting there, so it's mostly just painting. But I kind of take my creativity in the basing enough.
I'm gonna say you do a lot of converting with the basing, mate. The basing's been really cool.
Yeah, it come like the bosses are all pretty the pretty focused endeavors. The kind of quantity 4 mob miniatures have been very, lots of effort into 1 or 2. The other 2 get diminishing effort from there on.
Yeah.
But that gives them some variety at least. But I try and put something unique on at least one of the 4. And then, yeah. I've gotten very quick at doing cobbles with green stuff. So.
And I think as well, you saying you don't do heavy conversions on the like mobs of regular things in a board game and stuff. I think that's pretty wise anyway. 1, because there's so many, you drive yourself mad doing it for them all. But 2, also the nature of a board game is you need to be able to read what that piece is instantly. It's not like it's less expressive than wargaming. It's like you need to know what that dude is and what his stats are. It's you're going to be inviting mates to play this, I imagine, who aren't necessarily war gamers either, but they might be board gamers instead. So
yep, definitely.
You've got to be careful of that sort of thing. Whereas the boss, you can go crazy on because there's one of those. Well, not one of those, but it's a unique model. Right.
Yeah, no, definitely. I'm my next batch of probably like 50 or 60 that I just finished basing. Like half of them are dogs or variations of dogs. So yeah, they need to be identifiable as what they are and not kind of, if I converted them too much, they might all kind of blend in too much.
This one's a count as. This one's actually unit filler. Right. I am now onto the streaking grime stage, and I think I've earned myself a beer. I'll be back in a sec.
Right.
I'm gonna leave you alone, Michael. I'm gonna go grab some of the sculpts that I've been working.
Sure. I'll carry on. You're back quickly. I was just gonna complain that everybody left me.
Mate, this is the gaming room. The beer fridge is never far. Mate, that is a proper Friday beer. Yes, please.
Yeah.
Right, streaking grime. Here we go. The bit where you make your miniatures look like shit, and then just pray and hope it's going to work afterwards. It always works. It works every time. But there is definitely still the same stage where I'm just like, I've just ruined it. I've just literally ruined my hard work. I'm a twat. But it always comes through.
Can you show us the pre-stitch? Yeah, the before.
Mm-hmm. So they're going to look very bright and cartoony. These guys have almost got a McDonald's sort of theme going on at the moment. So lighting's pretty poor there. Give me a sec.
There we go.
We have little dude. We have rocket here. So what I do is I paint them in really bright popping colours, and the highlights are like almost a bit over the top. And then I've got
just before you switch that model.
Sorry?
That the previous guy with the fist ramrod.
Yeah.
Go for it.
And then I've got the bazooka dude, who's yellow because my last bazooka dude was red.
Nice.
And then I've got the kind of cyberpunky, steampunky, dwarfy dude here.
Nice.
He's nice.
So they're about to get grimed up, and then after the grime, that's the bit that takes a little while. So I'll probably not be doing a ton of hobby, but then I'll probably do what I normally do, which is stick them near or on a radiator so that they can dry a bit quicker, and then I might enjoy a second beer. Then who knows?
How long does it take to dry? Actually,
takes a while. Actually, if you just leave it in room temperature, it takes hours. But I have found that by sticking it on a radiator, you can get it dry pretty quick. I've never done it like I'm doing it today, though, where I've kind of been like trying to create something all at once like this. So don't know. Be interesting to find out. I've done something with my phone now. Can't seem to hold the camera still. The very high tech setup I use with a pair of pliers is letting me down.
Don't mind me. I'm just doing some really crude model rotations of some of the bastard stuff I've been working on. The probably more identifiable one here will be this Jin Summoner based on one of Eddie's pieces of art. So I took another hack at that since I did put one in a contest not too long ago. But this one is a more direct inspiration off of that. And Chits has already written a nice blurb about this guy. Here's his head. I'm working on some alternate heads now. But yeah, other than that, my only other one that's nearing completion is the Porcodillo sculpt, which will have a couple different heads. But the main one is just the little pig dude.
Right, of all your sculpts so far, the Porcodillo is the one that I am like. They've all been great, but he's the one I'm totally enamoured with. He is the one who, when I said I can see myself running a unit of something, that was the one. And I was thinking, I was looking in the Warhammer Armies Project Chaos Dwarf list, and it had the whole entry for Acolytes of Hashut, and I just thought, the Acolytes of the Pig God or something. I don't know. I just thought a unit of those guys literally trotting around would just be outstanding.
I mean, it's a really cool sculpt. Your Jin is really technically impressive, really is. But the pig guy is just, it's hilarious.
It's been more fun to work on. It was so I think it was good for me to do the first one based off of a piece of art that was sitting in front of me.
Yeah.
But I had a lot of fun working the second one, and it came together so much faster as well. Also, a pig face with fur on it's just so much easier to sculpt than a dwarf face. But yeah, that I fully enjoyed that one. Yeah, what you got any themes you're working on, Michael?
To be fair, no, actually. I just did some sketches based on armor I liked. This. And I've been roughly working on it. So we have this guy. It's hard to see. It's like the overlapping armor plates guy. And then there's this guy, but he's not looking anything to what the sculpt is. He has the overlapping leg armor. And then there's, well, this guy, I'm kind of winging it. He's just going to get some plate mail.
Nice.
But I haven't really thought of arms or heads or stuff like that yet much. So I'll see where it takes me.
I mean, the actual face sculpting was definitely really challenging for me, not having really tried that before. But I find like helmeted heads to be a whole lot of fun. I showed you guys one that I stumbled upon earlier today that I won't share because it's tied to some other things that I shouldn't share. But yeah, I found that just kind of helmets seem to just kind of come pretty easily in terms of you just kind of work with odd shapes.
Helmets are pretty, similar to armor or whatever. Faces are organic stuff. That's harder.
Mm-hmm.
Also, proportions are important.
Yep.
Interesting. Faces are probably the only thing I've had extensive experience at sculpting. It's actually the armors and the kind of like nice, smooth and flat surfaces and stuff that I'm finding the most daunting about doing it. That and things like hands. I've never really sculpted a pair of hands I was happy with. It's gonna be a learning experience. It's gonna be a real learning experience doing the Brazen thing, and I will definitely contribute to it at some point. It's just, what I'm like. I'm always drowning in 101 unfinished projects. I'm sure it'll get added to them at some point.
Yeah, it is a quite time sink.
Yeah, but I'll definitely contribute something to it.
I will blame Eddie for the gross quantity of open hands in one single sculpt because that single-handedly delayed that one from being done in a reasonable time. That Bad pun.
Right. Here we go. This is my weapon of choice now, gentlemen. Cotton buds. This is when the streak and grime starts getting removed. Oh no, these are the bad cotton buds. I bought 2 sets of cotton buds, and there's one that just does not absorb the material at all. Just kind of spreads it around. And the other brand of cotton buds I bought works brilliantly. And it's the strangest thing to look at these two. Products. They look identical. Sorry, cotton buds. Q-tips, Reaver. You know what I'm talking about, don't you?
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, cool. As I was just saying, I was just realising that's the British English for Q-tips.
It's one of the few things you actually want to suck when you buy it.
What do you mean?
Well, if they don't suck, they don't work, though.
Right. Good. Because I was thinking, I've just covered this in streaking grime and paint thinner, and I don't particularly want to suck on it right now. It's up there with drinking my resin, mate. It's not going to happen.
It's a shame. You know, who knows what you might see once.
Yes, this is working. Sexy little bastard. You get to know this material as well, like even though they come out looking glossy as hell because the nature of them being covered in paint thinner, you know, you can, after you've done this enough times, you see what they're going to look like afterwards. You just know, and these are going to work quite well. Honestly,
I mean,
in terms of results I get out of this method I'm using for this army, in terms of the results that I get on a graph, like compared to the effort I put in, it's the most productive I've ever been in that respect. You know, this is by far not my best painted army ever. My best painted army ever is probably those Age of Sigmar Chaos Dwarfs, the big hats, where I spent all that time and energy doing their bases and really went to town on them, and I did that standard bearer from Admiral's shop that I spent ages on and all that kind of stuff. That's probably like the height of what I've achieved as a painter. But in terms of like zero effort and actually something to show for it, I cannot argue about this method.
how many models did you do with Streaking Grime? Ballpark?
What's that, sorry?
How many models did you do with the Streaking Grime?
What, the other day when I was getting ready for that game?
No, in total.
Oh, in total? Well, if you count my Hobgoblin army as well, it must be in excess of 200 now.
I mean, if you paint 200 models with some stuff, I expect you learn how the stuff works.
Yeah, you do. Yeah, you learn pretty quickly.
It's your first bottle still?
What's that, mate?
It's still your first bottle?
No, I'm on my second bottle now.
It
Goes quite far though. When you consider, you know, about 200 miniatures in, and I'm on bottle number 2.
Yeah.
Bad, is it?
That's
Yeah, you get through the thinner quite quickly as well. The thinner comes in a bigger bottle, but you use it quicker.
yeah.
Because every time you dip the cotton bud in there, it soaks up a lot. It's a really interesting technique, and you do find, like I was just showing you on camera earlier, the way that I painted them before. You paint the miniatures in a very specific way to really maximise the effect of it. You paint the miniatures in a way that I would never normally paint these miniatures. Really, really bright and cartoony, and like also like you don't give a shit about any detail in the corners and stuff. There's no need to put washes on them or anything like that because this will just fill all of that in. It's like super Agrax. The only drawback is, of course, that it does create a very, very specific aesthetic that you're either into or you're not. You know, it does create that sort of grimy, grimdark looking models, which, if that's what you're into, if that's what you want to achieve, you're laughing. But if you want to do anything different with them, you know, you're not going to get that kind of heavy metal style look out of this mech technique. You're not going to get those sort of like, if you're doing high elves in white and blue armor and stuff, you know, unless you wanted them to look super gritty, you're not going to get that sort of effect out of it either.
I don't think high elves are their target group.
No, fuck elves. Fuck wood elves specifically.
Hashtag not bitter.
Yeah, oh yeah, I'm not bitter at all. Cheating cunts.
Wood elves.
No, that game, man. My opponents weren't even cheating. They were playing the rules. They were playing the game. But the actual elves, it's like it was my first ever game of a rank and flank game, and it's like I came up against the army that basically doesn't use the rank and flank rules because it was all skirmishers, it was all fast cavalry, and so the whole time I was like, right, so I can move really slowly and waddle round very, very carefully, but you can just run around and harass me the entire time. Yep. Okay. Cool. Thank you.
Yep. Welcome to Warhammer.
Yeah, but you know, it's all learning, isn't it? Like already coming out of that game, I had ideas about how I would then counter that army in the future.
Yep.
It would have been lots of guns, really. That's what that would
Yep.
have been. And not relying on my only guns being blunderbusters with a 12-inch range. It would have been sticking some bazookas in those units to add up some range, having a couple more rockets behind them, that sort of thing. Also, when I marched up my units of dwarf warriors, marching them up with a unit of blunderbusters nearby them to give that little 12-inch arc in front of them to say, yeah, come and charge us. We've got guns here. Do you know, just like... Whereas what I ended up doing was I ended up sitting these blunderbusters up on a hill where they didn't do an awful lot and sent the warriors out to die. You know, but it was my first game. It's all learning, isn't it?
Yeah. I mean, skirmishers are really fun to play with, though.
Oh, I bet that. Yeah, they look like they're having a great time, Michael.
When I play my Lisbon army, when I play my Lisbon army, one of the funniest parts is I just add 2 units of 10 skirmishers,
Yeah,
skinks, and then just run around, shoot stuff. They're terribly ineffective, but because Lisbon have this rule called cold-blooded, which means when you do a panic test, you just roll 3 d6 and you remove you take the second best. And I'm really lucky with my panic tests, so they never run away. So whatever I throw them at, I mean, whatever I have thrown them at, he has to decimate all 10 of those models, which usually takes anywhere between 2 to 5 rounds.
Yeah,
which is hilarious. It's best points I can spend on an army, on a unit.
give me one sec, boys. I'm just gonna go stick these on a radiator to speed up the drying process.
Reaver, when you're sculpting, where do you put your model on?
I have these pill bottles that I use a lot. With these ones specifically, I've drilled up through the feet, put wires, glued wires up in there, and then that way, if I have, I'll take one off right now. Actually, kind of have like this action underneath it, so I can like twist the wires together on the underside of the cap. I don't know. It's probably not too much better than cork, but I think one thing that you might not be able to do with cork is I can like hold the cap like that by the wires.
Yeah.
That are so that way it's real sturdy underneath there. If I like am working on the feet or something and I don't want like this to happen and like mush the green stuff on the foot, I can hold it nice and steady. But for the most part, it's just with the whole guy like that. But for this part, I don't think it would be any different than cork.
Yeah. I mean, I've been holding them like with the feet or stuff, and that's not really practical. So
Yeah.
I'm not quite sure what I'll be using. I'm really interested by the handle. Is it Antonor uses? I think it's Antonor on the forum. He's been sculpting and showing.
Yeah.
He has
Yep,
this metal
absolutely.
handle thing. That looks quite interesting. I should ask him what it is.
Yeah, he's the one we would be awesome to get some of his work into this kind of Napoleonic style work into the bastards. That'd be really interesting.
Yeah.
Is that antenna?
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. If we could get him on board with that, it'd be amazing. He's got a very, very cool, unique style. Really nice bloke as well. I chat to him on voice chat a couple of times. Good bloke. I reckon he'd be up for that.
Yeah, I'm sure he will.
He took the piss out of me terribly because I misread his bio on CDO by 1 or 2 letters. So for months and months, I thought he was Australian, not Austrian. And then when he first spoke to me on voice chat, I was like, whoa, that's not the voice I was expecting. I was expecting it to be good day, mate, but it wasn't. Yeah.
Funny,
I literally made the fuck up that Jim Carrey's character makes in the opening scene of Dumb and Dumber. I literally did that.
yeah, tells something about you, doesn't it?
Oh, I hope they dry soon. I want to try and smash these out in one night. Feel good.
If I really want to dry something quickly, I'll just put them on either, as you say, the radiator, but even quicker is a hair dryer, blow dryer.
Yeah. The blow dry. I was just thinking that, but I thought my choices are doing it here, which is going to make a really nice sound for the listeners at home,
Yeah.
or going into the house now where my wife, who's not particularly well today, has gone to bed early and the baby's asleep, and just whacking on the hairdryer. I don't think that's going to make me particularly popular either. It's for my army, I promise.
Yeah.
That oil heater gets really hot really quick, so I've actually got to keep an eye on them because otherwise I won't just have dried models. I'll have dried models with melted plastic bases. And the cool thing is when you stick the magnets on the bases like I have, you can have them attached to the radiator or all different angles and stuff. They can literally be sat on the side of it, drying.
Nice. The only downside for using a hair blower or radiator a bit less, but something that actually blows a lot is if you use washes or stuff like that or contrast, you blow away the pools.
Moves it around. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's it. I suppose with the streak and grime, it might do something similar as well, so you probably have to be careful with that. I remember one of my first experiences of using a hairdryer to dry miniature was when I was a teenager and I got a box of plastic Bretonians and I put a coat of paint on them. That's it, you've got it, man. All their halberds went extremely flaccid, extremely quickly. Oh, great, I just spent 20-30 quid on those, now they're fucked. Yeah.
I mean,
You learn.
I had the same thing with Skaven, but that lesson did teach me that I can use the same trick for printed resin models that are just,
Yeah?
yeah, it works the same. Well,
Does it?
a bit less bendy. They
Mhm.
break at some point, but just use some heat source and bend it into place. I think it's
Nice.
exactly the same with cast resin.
Cast resin, definitely. Yeah. When I've had bent casts that don't quite match up and stuff before, I've not used a hairdryer, but I've used like boiling water before. Stuck them in boiling water, then held the miniatures together in place, and then they've come together. But you get that even with like Forge World and like fine cast and stuff. It's just the nature of the medium, but it does warp. Especially multi-parts, man. Multi-part kits are terrible for it. Looking good, Michael.
And the front plates.
Nice.
Looks a bit like a chicken breast.
There you go.
Should I do a porco? What the fuck is chicken in Italian?
Would it be like to do with polo, something like that?
Polo
Polo
Dio?
is polo is chicken on a pizza, isn't it? So it must be.
Yeah.
Pork. No, polo dijo. I don't know.
Polo Dio.
Somewhere, Eddie's just like, oh, something's just hurting me. He doesn't know why. It's because I'm trying to speak Italian. My bastardized German tongue coming out and trying to speak his beautiful bastard Latin.
I mean, luckily he's not very far from you. He's only, what, 20, 30 feet away in your shed?
Yeah. He's doing that really annoying thing. You know when they start rubbing their bum on the floor because it's itchy? Bad dog. That whole fucking joke. It come from squatting, didn't it? When I said he was going to be squatting in my shed and he didn't know the British slang squatting as in to like live somewhere you shouldn't be living. He just thought you meant squatting as in sitting down to do a poo. And that just stuck. Now everyone in the forum's like, Eddie takes shits in your shed. Like that's canon. That's law now. So funny.
Wow. I have to do a shitting dwarf in the shed for Santa.
Oh my god, yeah. Shitting dwarf.
Yep, I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna sculpt the shitting dwarf.
Yeah, get that squatting action. Maybe get that Chaos Dwarf from Old School Miniatures with a wheelbarrow to be behind him.
Yep,
I'm definitely gonna have to get that's £2.50 that model. £2.50 for a Chaos Dwarf with a wheelbarrow. It's just like why wouldn't I? Why the hell wouldn't I? Like I don't know what he's gonna be doing in my army. He'd be quite good to be with a cannon crew, I suppose, but he'd be even more fun just to be at the back of a unit, just like bringing his wheelbarrow. I'm here.
Yep, wheelbarrow will.
That's it. Maybe he's been farming root vegetables or something, and he's got a load in there. It's just. All right, I'm going to check on them. Make sure the bases haven't melted. That worked better than expected. That's taken no time at all. Fucking done.
Nice.
There he is.
Ooh, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, just adds an extra. Just turns that dodgy, brightly coloured paint job into something that actually looks like you might have spent time and energy on it when you definitely haven't.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's still a bit wet round his feet, but what I tend to do as well is I do tend to hit them up with an extra little highlight here and there anyway, just to make it pop a little bit more. It just does the bulk of it for you. Oh, that's lovely. I'll be on to basing next. Right, turn my phone back on. I gave it a break because I wasn't using the miniatures.
You know, something we haven't discussed yet is the meetup.
Yeah, CDO
be-
offline.
Yeah. Might not be as fun to talk about for Karen, but
It's all
Yeah.
good. No, it's fine. Sounds awesome, guys. It really does.
I'll have my own meetup. Hookers and blackjack.
And sand.
We'll meet in this big old pothole near my house. It's going to be brilliant. Right, grab another beer. But yeah, the old meetup's certainly taken on life of its own.
I haven't been keeping up with the thread on the discourse for obvious reasons.
Naturally, yeah.
Anything else come about? I know you guys were looking at places.
Yeah, Michael's found some places looking more like gonna be more likely to be in the Netherlands now.
Yeah.
Which it's not far from me at all. Like the Netherlands is one of those places where, as a Briton, you're like, oh, it's another country, but you realise there's literally places in England that are probably further away to me than the Netherlands. Like it's really bloody close. So it's definitely achievable. And thing I'm most excited about is the fact that talk from the British CDO users has now gone from planes to trains.
Yeah.
And I'm really up for that. I think that'll be a really nice way of travelling down. Break out a couple of board games, be good. I mean, if we're bringing Blood Bowl teams anyway, sod it. Let's have a game of Blood Bowl on the train. We'll take up a little booth anyway.
Absolutely.
Something else, little card games and stuff. But that'd be really good. So we've hopefully got Chits and Vince and Grask all coming down via train. At the moment, that's what it's looking like anyway.
It's a bit of pre-Chaos Dwarf offline, Chaos Dwarf offline.
Yeah, that's it. Chaos Dwarf train line?
Yeah, why not?
Sure.
So that's looking quite good. And before that happens, before we do the actual journey down, Kitskoy and Vince and myself are looking at actually getting some in real life games of Warhammer or similar games actually played as well.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, meeting up in London. There's a little place called the Bad Moon Cafe, which is basically like a little wargaming cafe where they have, serve drinks and light snacks and stuff and have wargaming tables and that available to hire. So yeah, should be pretty good. And I think it'd be nice, getting to meet some of these guys and stuff before going away, just to
Yeah.
kind of like break the ice and stuff, be good. But the actual event itself, I can't wait. I think it's gonna be mental. It's gonna be absolutely brilliant. It's like people who we talk to on a near daily basis, but don't actually get to hang out with and stuff. And this has got to be. I mean, I think in the end there's probably going to be about 12 of us, but that is probably still the largest amount of Chaos Dwarf enthusiasts in a room in history. And I do count Forge World when I say that. I think there's probably not as many Chaos Dwarf enthusiasts there when that was happening.
Yeah, it's looking like we're at this point between 6 and 9 people, 8 and 9. Yeah, 8 and 9.
Nice.
So that's not too bad.
Mate, to be fair as well, you don't want it too big because we're trying to organise a gaming weekend which is going to be a laugh. We're not trying to organise a bloody convention. Do you know what I mean? We're not trying to organise something that would actually have to manage. We want to kick back and have a bit of barbecue and hang out with people and have a laugh and play some games ourselves. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Wouldn't it be a lot of fun if it was like a massive event?
Exactly.
No, I'm just really impressed that like people have taken the leap and actually signed up to it.
Yeah.
It's nice.
When Jasco suggested it, I was like sort of hoping for maybe 2 or 3 Eastern or Middle European. What's his name? From Germany and the Netherlands, this area. I wasn't
Yeah,
really expecting the British to come over.
no one ever expects the Brits to come over, mate.
Fact.
I thought that was the Spanish.
That's the Spanish Inquisition, yeah. No, we will do what we do on holiday in Europe, everywhere, mate. We'll turn up and we'll drink too much and we'll make tits of ourselves, and then everyone will be happy when we're gone. It's what the Britons do abroad.
True. Well, that's what
turn up and embarrass ourselves.
That's what the Brits do. Period.
It's what Brits do. Period. Yeah.
No, we love you.
It's what Eddie was saying to me. He was saying, "You Britons, you can't handle your drink. You have a few drinks and you're all a mess." And I said, "No. We drink a lot and then we're a mess." It's not that we have low tolerance of alcohol. It's that we know where that tolerance is and we push it beyond our limits. We don't have your sunny, beautiful Italian weather to fall back on. We live in depressing, soggy England. This is what gets us through the week. It's a coping mechanism, mate. And my phone just said it has run out of storage.
Yeah, there you go.
There you go, dude. So it might have to be photographs of the last bit. You've got enough, I think, of me picking up miniatures and putting them down and stuff like that. So
that's awesome.
Sounds really exciting, doesn't it? You've got enough footage of me picking up miniatures and putting them down. Picking up miniatures and putting them down. I bet you're really excited about that.